Hey, hey, welcome to the live. All right, let me know if the audio's coming in okay. Feel free to comment. Please like as you come in. So I always say, save your money. There's no need to save your likes. Welcome, welcome. All right. And actually, you're probably in this high inflation environment, you really shouldn't even be saving your money. You got to invest your money. If there was never a time before that you absolutely had to be invested, it's 100% right now. It's worth the risk. Actually, I was explaining that to a friend yesterday as I was looking at her portfolio, and she was talking about, well, this portion isn't invested, and she was talking about the amount that was in her bank account, and she was like, okay, this portion is invested, and I've got a portion of that that's invested in the stock market. Oh man, somebody just did a $20. I've never had that before. So, Clay, I definitely appreciate that. If there's reach out, shoot Nori an email. I want to give you a special gift. We'll shoot something over to you. Send an email to Nori at Financier Bank, and we'll send you something special. So you guys can. I've never done that before, so I forget the name, but I've seen it on other streams and stuff. Whatever the payment thing is on YouTube, you can send a tip or whatever. Clay, I'd certainly appreciate that. Uh, yeah, we'll make something special. Michael, what's up, man? What's up? So what's Clay Pro? You gotta fill me in. Thanks so much. Click the like button as you're popping in here. So yeah, we were talking about this whole like investment thing. So she's like, okay, I've got this amount of money that's in my checking account. I've got, this other money that's invested in a few cryptos. And then I've got like my portfolio and, had some great stocks in there. And I was, telling her, well, you want to remember that all your money is invested, like every dollar that you have, even the dollar that's in a shoebox under your bed, like that's an investment. It's like holding a bond. I won't go through the history of money, but basically what a dollar is, it's literally a note. It's a note that originally said that the government owed you that amount of money and you had to pay you that amount of money in gold. In the last call, I explained that like a lot of people don't realize that the average fiat currency only lasts for 27 years. And the dollar, people think that the dollar has been this fiat currency for the 100 years of American history, but it really hasn't. It's only been a fiat currency since the 70s. Like it's very, very recent. And since then, it's become very, very worthless. It's lost 90% of its value. And so just like every fiat currency, it's literally going to zero. You can check out that last video. I talk a little bit more, but France, they had to create a new currency after theirs went to zero. Germany had to create a new currency. And so we're on a quick path to these things being worth, we know it's going to be worth less and less, but I think people don't realize that this is a fairly new experiment. Feel free to pop in any questions. I'm gonna chat a little bit just about this concept of entrepreneurial income versus private equity income. And, I've talked before that like creating a fund is just skipping to the end. Everybody's saving up money so that one day they can have enough investments to pay for their living expenses. And so they're saving for 40 years and they're putting the money into an investment account. And the idea is that you're going to have enough money to live on. There are a couple problems that are wrong with that. Number one, you've got 40 years to wait for it. Number two, you haven't gained any expertise as an investor. And so you're at the mercy of Wall Street, which, hey, we all know we can trust those guys, right? You're at the mercy of some financial advisor that's working for some Wall Street firm that they're going to take care of you and your family. And, it doesn't take reading much about the history of Wall Street to know that you probably don't want to count on those guys. And so one downside is that you spent 40 years working and you don't know anything about investing. But the bigger downside is obviously it's taking 40 years. So what creating a fund does is it skips to the end. It's let me create what I'll have in the end, which is an investment portfolio. And that's what we're doing instead of working 40 years for those funds. All you're doing is learning how over the course of maybe 4 years, how do you get really good at raising capital? How do you get really good at managing and growing those funds? And then the same way you would with your investment portfolio 40 years from now, you're taking funds out of that. Now we get into, so what are the different ways to make money from that? One way is, becoming a hedge fund. And there's a lot of up and down. There's some people that are built for that. I do not like the daily ups and downs of, being in that kind of investment. There's becoming an entrepreneur. I think one of the things that people compare is like, man, there's a lot of entrepreneurs with extremely high net worths. And, it's like, man, this person is worth billions and billions of dollars. And there's other entrepreneurs that are worth millions of dollars. But one of the things that a lot of people don't consider is that when you compare a private equity fund manager to an entrepreneur, that entrepreneur, their net worth as well is going up and down based on the value of that business. And sometimes that business goes out of business and it goes to zero. Most entrepreneurs are taking out a small amount of money as far as like actual cash, because if you want to stay relevant, you want to continue to grow that business and you want to increase your wealth, you're in a position where you have to keep reinvesting and your investors want you to keep reinvesting. And so it's not a thing with an entrepreneur venture where they want you taking out money from that. You should be reinvesting and growing that business. When you compare that to like a private equity fund, like that's the whole purpose. Like the whole purpose is how do we find investments that we can take a distribution? And so when you compare the fund manager, Steve Schwarzman, and like actually look at not just like, oh, what's your net worth? It's what's the actual income, and they're generating income of hundreds of millions of dollars on a quarterly basis. That's what happens when you have a fund with a lot of investments that are creating income, and then you're sending a distribution out to those investors because that's the whole purpose. And then you're getting your portion as the fund manager because that's what your compensation is. And so when I compare those two, there's a lot of risk that goes into playing the game of entrepreneurship. And some people are built for that, the same way that some people are built to be managing a hedge fund. But when I compare the risk versus the rewards, there are very few things that offer that type of risk. I want asymmetrical risk. I want a lot of return, but I don't like a lot of risk. And even in the private equity game, there's still a lot of risk, but compared to the ups and downs of a hedge fund, compared to the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur, there's just a lot less of those risks compared to the rewards. And so there's no way, and that's why I kind of start talking about money. You know what I mean? Like when you're talking about actual cash, like there's risk in that. And so sometimes we don't realize that. And for cash in and of itself, it's like, it's not even just a risk. It's like, it's the worst. It's the guarantee that you're losing. Like yesterday, your cash you don't see it because it's the same amount of dollars. So, but that cash is literally worth less today than it was yesterday. And tomorrow's going to be worth even less. So there's no such thing as getting out of risk. It's how, one of the things I was explaining to our friends, like there are people that are investing in Forex. Like the whole idea there is that those dollars and other currencies are literally going up and down every day, and they're slowly, if it's a fiat currency, it's slowly going down over time. And so you want to be keenly aware of the fact that there's no way to get around risk. All you can do is figure out, where can I get asymmetrical benefits versus the risk that I'm taking. And still, in those cases, you're gonna be in a position. I was in PEFI. One of the things that we talked about last week is that in I guess PEFI 2 call, what I'm trying to create is this kind of like a simulation. I want to create a simulation where we're going out and we're going to do some real deals, but in those first few deals, it's like we're making very small investments. I think we've got about 5% of the PEFI 2 fund that's in a couple of deals, and so when you've got that small amount, it's like, okay, this is playtime, guys. Like, let's get as aggressive as possible. Let's implement financier strategies. Let's implement growth strategies. Let's implement PEFI kind of style return strategies to increase our internal rate of return. And this is playtime. This is just, hey, let's have fun and let's get very aggressive and learn as much as possible. And so that's what you want to do, even if you're in whatever game you want to play. If you're going to play the hedge fund game, you're going to play the entrepreneur game or whatever, you want to have that opportunity to practice. LeBron doesn't just, even as amazing as he is, like that's what's funny to me. Like, when it comes to people that haven't spent the 10,000 hours playing a game, they think they just jump in and start playing at a professional championship level. But the truth is, like, even the greatest champions know that they need practice. Outside of Allen Iverson, if you are familiar with that press conference, you'll get that joke. But everybody knows they need practice. And so if you're playing this game, or no matter what game you decide to play, that's where you want to spend as much time as possible. And that's the real problem with whether it's working 20 years to retire, 30 years to retire, 40 years to retire. The problem is that you're stuck having to play the real game with serious consequences of managing your portfolio at the end of that period and understanding money and how it works and all of that. But you haven't spent any time in your life, playing that game and practicing. So you get to the end, you've got your life savings, your whole nest egg that's now in your hands and under your control, and you only have those two options. Either you do take control and you start practicing with real life money, with your real life life savings, and hope that it turns out well, or you trust somebody else and just hope that they're really going to take care of you. So those are kind of, just some things to be aware of. All right, so let's get into some of y'all's questions. Mark, what is up? Mark says, waiting for some sage advice you're about to drop. Well, hopefully I did not disappoint. Mark, I appreciate you popping in. Once again, Michael, I definitely appreciate the $20. I got to figure out like where that even goes, to be quite honest. So I definitely appreciate that vote of confidence, and definitely hit the like button, guys. Like, I try to come on here and share some cool stuff for you. Saul, thanks for popping in. Saul says, digital currency is checkmate humanity. How'd you like to have your savings expire? I love it. I love it. Dr. Crypto, always appreciate you popping in. Practice. What's practice? You got the Allen Iverson. Practice. Y'all are asking me about practice? Thanks, Dr. Crypto. Oh, I didn't push these on there. Thanks. Uh, all right. Is PEFI more like VC or PE? This is a really great question because it is kind of a little bit of both. Part of it is VC in that we're dealing with smaller businesses because we're dealing with micro private equity. So these aren't large companies. And so in that way, it's like VC, but it's like private equity because we're taking those same concepts of some of those private equity firms and putting a VC kind of twist to it. And the reason that I created PEV is that I realized that through me having to go through trials and tribulations of being a private equity fund and doing it the same way as a private equity fund in the micro space doesn't work. And so it was like a lot of work for me to go through this process of figuring out, okay, how do I make this work? And where are the places where we need to treat this like a venture capital fund? Where are the places where we need to take things from just entrepreneurial growth? And then where are the things that we're using kind of financier slash large private equity fund strategies? And that's kind of it was the or PEFI was the result of kind of putting those things together. And really PEFI 1, which is a lot of fun. We're sending out distributions right now, the final distributions on PEFI 1. And the really cool thing, number one is I get to make money from it, from teaching this, and not money from you guys paying me, but just money because we go and do deals and we make money in that fund. And the cool thing was like going through that process the first time and having them ask questions. I think I talked last time about, once I did PEFI 2, I realized like I've got to go a little bit slower and just really take time and give time for those questions to come up. Because in some cases, there are things that I changed and wasn't really aware. It was just like, okay, the market or the deal is basically telling me this, so this is how we need to finance these types of deals. This is the best way to prepare this deal for exit at the highest multiple possible. All of those things, and here's this other tool that we're able to leverage in order to get the best deal structure. So there, and it's just a different game. It's not like buying a business as just a business buyer. As we've got several folks that are now in this, that have gone through our Deal Makers Institute program. And most of them will say like, this is just totally different. It's a different thing. The way we look at deals, how we buy those businesses. I think I mentioned last time, like in most cases, we're not buying the whole business. We're actually buying the corporations or the LLCs, and we're just buying a minimum amount in order to get control of that LLC or corporation. And so that begins to once you make that little slight change just in how you're doing the transaction, it sends you on a totally different path than what we send. And it's literally things that we would never recommend you do as a business buyer that you would do in a micro private equity fund. All right. There's what is up. Thanks for popping in. I am good. Been traveling quite a bit these last couple months, but it's been great. Been able to catch up with some folks just all over, man. It's been really, really good. Thanks for coming. Hope you've been well. Dr. Crypto says, do you buy companies in PEFI? 100%. So just to be clear, PEFI stands for Private Equity Fund Incubator. So we don't buy companies in PEFI. PEFI creates private equity funds in partnership with members. So right now we're putting together pieces of PEFI 3 and just interviewing and that kind of thing very, very early on PEFI 4. And so each one of those represents a fund. And that fund will go out and make the investments. In some cases, it may be acquiring the company. In other cases, maybe making just an investment in a company. But private equity is really simple. What it means is that instead of the company being public and you're investing in stock, we're doing deals with private companies. But in some cases, we may buy those companies. But in other cases, it may just be a financier style deal. It may be some form of financing. It may just be acquiring a minority stake. It could be a lot of things that, it could be just buying. We had somebody in DMI who bought a license and flipped that license for about 4 or 5 times the acquisition. So in all these cases, there are just these different opportunities. What books do you recommend for the PEFI group? So check out my video where I do the top 5 books that I recommend for private equity. That's where I would start. And probably, I can't remember what isn't on that list, but one that I would definitely add if it isn't there is the book on KKR, The New Financial Capitalist, and then What It Takes by Steve Schwartzman. I think there's a lot of value in just outside books as well. I'm reading but just got recommended a book on talent. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically around the concept that it's not all about, and really it's not even the concept that it's not all about talent. It's really the concept that it's not talent at all. It's all about practice. They did a case study where they made these 2 twins, both chess masters, just because they started at 2 years old teaching about chess. We know Tiger Woods' story, we know Serena's story, we know, just like all of these stories are just like, if you start early learning something and you're focused on it and you love it and you're passionate about it, you're going to be world-class at it. And so that's the thing with everything. That's why I'm always pushing to start things early. It's very appropriate that I mention that, because the next comment is from my nephew, Easy Money Mellow. What's up, man? Thanks for popping in. And so, as he will tell you, like, I'm always pressing, like, just start early, like, try things. Like, the earlier that you can start doing things, I think about some of the businesses that I was just messing around with in high school, and not having that fear of trying to sell something and all that. Like, those things help out later on, and that's what that book is about. I have to go back and see. My other phone is over there, but actually, why don't I just go here? Go ahead and put y'all's questions in. Oh, this is it. Talent is overrated. Talent is overrated. Definitely recommend that. Let's see. Renee, what is up? Appreciate taking the time to drop knowledge. Looking forward to our call. Me as well. Thanks for popping in. Montreal, hey Ace, for those who haven't made it into PEFI yet, how would you recommend they get their practice? So I definitely recommend starting with those books. My top 5 recommended books on private equity. It just gives you a bit of a picture. And that's just, it's a really great place to start. The next thing I would say is it is helpful to go through the Dealmakers Institute program. So if you're kind of like, hey, I'm not ready to jump into PEFI yet, that would be the second thing that I would 100% recommend. The third thing would be if you can come to a Dealmakers weekend. I think getting around, some of the people that made it to our Dealmakers weekend in June, in Atlanta, that group of folks, everybody just walked away saying, like, we had some trainers, we had somebody come in and talk on finance. We talked about once you've acquired the business, 21 ways to increase the value almost instantly. And obviously I went through some financier strategies when I spoke, but the people were like, hey, like, all of that was amazing, but what multiplied the impact was talking to other people. I think too, just like talking to other people that are really doing deals. We had one attendee who's acquiring a car business, and just like leveraging an amazing amount of credit that they already have in place. We have some other folks that came down from DC area, and they're doing some amazing stuff there, like in the process of acquiring two different business. But I think being around people that are really on the ground and doing these deals is really valuable. So those would be the three things that I would do while you're kind of in the waiting pattern to be able to get into a PEFI. And with each one of those, it just becomes more likely that once you apply for PEFI, that you're going to be able to get in, because, especially with DMI, like, those people get preference because they know a lot of the basics. In every PEFI, there are a couple folks that have already gone through that DMI process. And last thing on that, I would say, like, when you're reading, just being active about reading. Somebody was looking at my Kindle and Audible. Like, I didn't even realize that they give you a rating, and so I'm at the max level of, like, masters. Like, she was like saying, like, oh, like, check out this, like, I'm at this level, and she's like, I want to, what level are you at? Like, I don't even know. And so we go, and she shows me where it is, and she's like, what? You're like, I'm at the max level. And there was some category that was saying, like, oh, like, you've got this other badge, and it's because and the badge was for the amount of notes that you've taken. And she's like, I didn't know you could take notes. And so I showed her, like, where you could take notes. And the cool thing there is, like, yeah, like, you shouldn't be reading without taking notes. That should be a part of the reading process. Like, you shouldn't be reading if you're not taking notes. What are the top 5 skills to learn as a business person? I think sales is the number one. I'll probably put sales for all 5. I think sales is very important. That would be number one. If you're not able to close deals, then whether that's closing a deal to sell a pen, as they talk about in Wolf of Wall Street, or a deal to close a $100 million sale of software or whatever. So you got to be able to sell, and that becomes even more important than the second one that I would say, which is marketing. And when it comes to marketing, it doesn't matter how much you market if you're not able to convert that into money. I think after that, it's like financial management, like cash flow management. A lot of the businesses that I see that we're going to acquire, they're not really good at managing the financial side of their business. After that, creating SOPs. SOPs are crucial because you don't want to be stuck in your business forever. You don't want to have to go in there. And the better you are at creating systems and putting together SOPs that are easily followed by other people, then that just allows you to go out and do the next deal or run the next business or whatever. But most importantly, it increases the value of the asset, increase the value of the business that you're going to sell one day. I've talked on this channel before. Hold on one sec. I've talked on this channel before about the fact that, like, franchises, which I'm a big fan of, I've bought and sold 9 different units of franchises and 4 different franchise concepts. And a big part of that is that I understand the value of systems and processes, and that's what they're selling. These are businesses that other people are buying. They're buying before, like I would like to buy the existing units, but there are people that will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the business before it makes a dime because those systems are already in place. So how much more powerful is it when you can give somebody an existing business that's profitable, it has employees, everything's running, you walk in day one, you're able to take profits out. But in addition to all that, all the SOPs and everything you need to be able to run that business is like down packed, and it's about iterations to make sure that it's working. It's just not about like putting together SOPs. Who cares if you can like put together some systems and process? Like, it's about, do these systems and processes grow this business over time? So the business should keep consistently be growing. When, it was very cool. I saw that the Plato's Closet that I sold years ago was for sale. And when I sold it to him, it was like a $500,000 business. And then I saw like, oh, like now it's $1 million business or $1.2 million business. Like that should be like, the systems that you're putting into your business should lead to that growth. He didn't come in, he didn't know anything about that business. So it's not like he came in and he knew what to do. He just continued to follow the systems that the franchise came up with. And part of that is that why the franchise is so cool is that they have worked it out over the course of hundreds of units. And so you've got to reiterate that and try different things and test those out, and then pull the best of those tests into a SOP. And that's it. I'll give you the 4. I'm gonna get back to this one, Dr. Crypto, since I spent some time on that. Let's go down to Mr. Joe Doe. And let's see. Hi, Ace. I'm debt free. I have 12 years of my net salary saved. That is awesome, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. And low expenses. I love it. Those were some of I was telling somebody the other day, I stayed at my parents' house till I was 24 because I wanted to save money. It's just like always very much been a saver. And, it was ridiculous. I'll tell you a pretty embarrassing story. I'm 24 years old. I own a business. I have employees, and I'm dating this attorney. It's a few years older than me, and she's amazing. And it's like, that's cool. Like, I'm in business, and we meet. Like, my office is in the building where she is, and so we're early on dating. And one day we're out to dinner, and my ankle was hurting. And she's like, asked me like, oh, like, what's wrong with your ankle? It seems like you're limping. It's like, yeah, I hurt my ankle. And I'd had this kind of nightmare the night before. And, it's like, yeah, it's like I was running away from some robbers that were trying to get me. And I'm running. And I get like to this building. And I'm trying to climb on top of the building, and this guy grabs my leg, and I'm like, I'm just in the dream. I'm like, I gotta kick this guy as hard as I can. And so I go to kick the guy, but in my dream, I end up kicking in real life, and I kick the ladder on my bed. And I was in the middle of telling her story, and as soon as it left my mouth, I realized what I just said. She's like, why is there a ladder on your bed? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in a bunk bed. She's like, you have a bunk bed? It's like, yeah, I stay at my parents' house. So I was all about saving money, even if it meant sleeping in a bunk bed, until I had enough. Really, I wanted to make sure that I had enough passive income to kind of cover my bare necessities. So kudos to you, Joe Doe. That is a very, very big deal. And then keeping those low expenses, man, I will say my expenses now have gone up. And sometimes I'm like, I gotta cut back. But I think as long as you can keep those low expenses, it's buying freedom. Low expenses is another way of buying freedom. I have no connections and don't know anyone who is ambitious about making big things happen. Where do I start? Well, it's a good thing you have the internet. Like you don't have to. A couple things I would say. Like a lot of my mentors I've never met. I have been fortunate to have three pretty amazing mentors that I did meet, and so one of the things is that you can go virtual, use YouTube, use great books, and get inspiration from and information. Get inspiration and information from the ambitious people that do take the time. I mean, it's a lot of work. I've written a couple books, man. It is a tremendous amount of work. I don't come on here a lot, but like this takes out of my day, and so there are people that are taking out of their time to kind of give back and spend that time teaching and inspiring other folks. So take advantage of that and use that as like your network. And then the other thing I will say is that in order to really get around those folks, you are going to have to be willing to take risks. There's really no way around it. At some point, you do have to take risks because it's almost like the entry into the club. If you're the person that has only been safe and you even get around those people and you've never done anything, they're going to sniff you out and just be like, hey, like, we don't want to hang out with somebody like that. They want to hang out with somebody who's in the game. The person that changed my life to even like make me realize that this was a possibility. Like, I didn't even think that I had already bought two businesses and still didn't realize that buying and selling businesses could be like what I actually do. I thought that I'm going to just find that one deal one day that, I'm going to work in a business forever, in that one business forever. And then, as most of y'all know, I met Mike, who became just really influential in my life, who flipped hospitals. And I'm like, wait a minute, if he can flip hospitals, surely I can flip these little businesses. But he would have, and even it was difficult, he still just threw up a bunch of hoops even beyond this. But a big part of it was that he saw that I was taking action, and he had heard like, oh yeah, it's at this point I'm early 20s. This young black kid is like buying and selling businesses, and so he was just as curious about my come up and like how I was doing what I was doing as I was about him. And so you got to take action. And then it's funny, as you start to actually do things, those other people are going to be doing things as well, and you're going to meet them. And so that's the only way, like I would have in my network, growing up literally in a house next door to the projects. Like I was never going to interact with those kind of folks until I started, from a dorm room, being willing to take those risks. So those would be my few recommendations. Is asset manager a good skill to learn? I am much more a fan of asset grower, I guess you could call it. Like, I don't want to just manage something. I want to know how to, because like, what assets are you managing? I mean, if it's real estate, I want to know how. I want to be really good at being able to get access to an asset, multiply the value of that asset, and exit. That's the game. That's the game of everything that you want to be able to do. Now, there are some people that are just like, oh, like I just want to be able to oversee this thing and get a little bit of money here and there. But what we really advocate and what I'm passionate about even in PEFI is like, hey man, how do we take this thing and make it worth 3x 4x, and that's why when it comes to the funds that we do, like it's just 2 years. So this isn't just like, oh, we're gonna sit back and collect money. Like, hey, we need to get PEFI 1, we ended it in 1 year because we were like, okay, we're good. Like we got the deal, is done. We're, you guys remember, I just started PEFI 1. We just did the final distribution. So when like compared to the money we invested to the returns, it's like it's a pretty massive return. So that's the real skill set, just being able to manage an asset There's some value there, but not as much as when you can 3-4x an asset within 11 months. That's the real skill set. I'll pop up and get you, Dr. Crypto, and then I'll do maybe a couple more. When buying a company, what's more important, reducing expenses or working on marketing sales? Marketing sales, 100%. Growth is you can only take expenses down so far. You can take them to even zero. And so that's it. When you're good at growing the business, then that's something that is infinite. You know what I mean? Like that literally is infinite. So the decreasing expenses is a finite thing, and I think members of PEFI will tell you we don't spend a ton of time on that. So this isn't the 80s where it was just all about cutting expenses, and you had these corporate raiders that got a very bad reputation because all they did was come in and fire people and get rid of everything, get rid of any perks and all of that. All right. Where did I went back up, and now I gotta find where I was. All right. Three Kings, what's up? Hey Ace, what do you think about the online course space? Do you recommend them? Yeah, so we have done 2 different deals on course related things. And yeah, I'm very much a big fan. There's so much opportunity in every industry. The most important thing is getting into a deal and then understanding how, like I just mentioned, whatever space you are going to go into, you want it to be a space where you're interested in getting in, practicing, learning. How do I exponentially grow this business? And if it's a business where you're interested in it enough to figure out how do I exponentially grow it, then go really deep. If you're not, then I would stay away from it. But yes, I'm a fan of courses. I think that is just the future of education in general. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Josh Wiggins, welcome. Hi, Ace. What advice would you give a college student who's interested in getting into PE or buying business? So I did my first deal in college. So you absolutely can just start to do deals, even if they're smaller. But I think, like I mentioned, starting with the video on buying the books I recommend. I think getting into a course like Dealmakers Institute is also very valuable, and then getting around other people. I think like Dealmakers Weekend, even if you just did that instead of DMI, I think that's really valuable to start to build relationships, because as you'll see in DMI, there's some folks that are young, and they get into deals not because they have a lot of money and not because they have any experience at all, but just because they have a relationship with somebody else in the program who does have a lot of money. And guess what they have is a lot of time and energy. When you're young, you got to be willing to use your time and energy to go out and leverage that in deals. So I would definitely recommend that. The reason that I got my first deal was because I reached out to the business to work for them for free, just to learn about the business. And then I ended up acquiring it. All right, 2 more. In stock market. Okay, so you're talking about asset management in the stock market. There's some folks that are built for that, and so I like most of my stock market stuff is it's not like I don't have these other assets. So I'm an investor in several apartment buildings, a hotel in Colombia and Medellin. So then I've got stock portfolios And so and then obviously crypto. And so it's not that. I think that there is a bit of a just competition factor when it comes to the stock market. So I'm sorry for those who missed it. That is in reference to asset manager. Is it a good skill to learn? And he was talking about, or she, I can't tell from the name, was talking about like asset. Is it good to learn the skill of asset manager in the world of the stock market? Of course, there are folks that are making a tremendous amount of money being asset managers of stock portfolios. All right, I'll do one more and get out of here. Oh, we actually got, we don't have many females, so I'll actually do two more because I want to get to yours, Melissa. Leverage. How much leverage are you and your team usually approaching with an acquisition with? As much as possible. The goal is 100%. So as much as you can get access to. And the reason is, the private equity is all about leverage. That's what you're doing. The reason I say it's just all about leverage is the first thing you're doing is you're leveraging the work that's been done in that business. And so the previous owner, you're leveraging their time. They figured out a niche where there was an opportunity. They researched the products that could be sold to that niche. They researched how to do the marketing. And they actually took their money and they spent money on the marketing. And then they figured out the copy that would increase the conversion rate so that it was a profitable business. They spent money on the website. They hired the employees. They trained the employees. These are all units of effort and energy, calories that have been invested so that you could come in and buy this business. That's 100% leverage. So then we want to add to that the financial leverage. And with the financial leverage, you're looking for everywhere you can access capital. I mean, it's from a private equity fund manager perspective, it's all leverage because you're raising the capital in the fund, and the LPs are really doing that. So it's really leverage from that point. But for you to then be able to go and add leverage to that by getting outside financing is the third level of leverage. And so the final level is how do you grow that using the other steps before, like, how do I increase this business? And so you've got those three levels of leverage, and you want to use all three. So everybody looks at it as just like, oh, this is financial leverage. But no, it's like leveraging the time, effort, energy, and calories of the owner, leveraging the LP funds that have been raised. Like, they've gone out and they've made money, and now they're putting money as an LP. And so you're managing that as a GP, and then leveraging outside financing and, paying some amount of interest on that. And so you've got three levels of leverage, just by nature of what we're doing. And that's one of the reasons that when done correctly, it just can generate really great returns. But yeah, it has to be done correctly because leverage can be dangerous. Leverage used in the wrong direction just gets you in that wrong direction that much faster and that much deeper. Last question. Thanks for popping in. It's always dudes coming on. This is a big dude fest on these lives, which I love. It's all good, but I love when we can get a female that pops in. And my sister's name is Melissa. So I appreciate it. Let's see. Do any of the top 5 books teach you how to manage risk when building a private lending portfolio? Or do you have a good resource on private lending? Not that I have come across. I feel like most of the lending has been around real estate. So if you happen to be investing in real estate notes, then there are some good books. I can't remember the name next live. I'll try to come back with names of that. But unfortunately, there aren't. I think the greatest thing you can do, and this is something I learned when I had a factoring business. So I acquired a factoring business, and factoring is also a form of lending, essentially, to businesses. And, again, there just weren't really good resources for like on the ground nitty gritty. You're going to get the best info by partnering with somebody who's doing it and has done it for years. And especially right now, there are just so many opportunities because baby boomers have businesses or have these investments, they have these portfolios, their kids aren't interested in them, and they love taking a young person under their wings. And so what I did in the factoring business is there was another person who would fit that scenario, a little bit older guy, Thomas. He had a portfolio. And I basically went to him and said, hey, I'm out here actively. He was kind of on the back end, just managing the portfolio. And I was like, hey, I'm out here doing this. I'm getting deals. I'm putting them together. I'd love to partner with you. I'll do this front end work and you don't have to do any of it. I'll do it the collections. I'll do all that stuff. We can split the money. And you put up half the money, I'll put up half the work, but you still get half of the returns. So it was benefit for him because he didn't have to do any of the work, but I could learn from him and I could bring him deals. And it's the same thing that I'm doing with PEFI. I'm putting my money up. You know what I mean? Like they're putting up small amounts, but I'm 50% of the money that's going in from the GPs. And so they get the benefit of my knowledge, but I'm vested because I want this thing to make money. So I'm trying to, and that was kind of even the thing with PEFI too. It's like, like I'm trying to get a return, man. Like y'all are like talking about stuff that doesn't really matter. Let's go make some money. I realized like, no, like we got to make sure that the educational experience is there as well. But I think that was a very cool deal because he got the upside to be able to get returns. I was young. I had the energy. I had the willingness to put in a ton of effort. And we both got to win because he saved me from deals. And so, his money was on the line. So it wasn't like if their money isn't on the line, you're not going to get good information. Because they may like you and they'll share some things and that kind of thing. But when it comes down to it, it's like, hey, like I'm maybe going to do this deal or not. But if their money is on the line, they're like, no, here are all the reasons that we're not doing this deal. And here's what you need to be looking for in the future. Or, hey, you didn't put this clause. You need to add this clause to the contract because I don't want my money going in there without this clause. And so all of that is really important. Wow, y'all almost got an hour out of me tonight. That was cool. I haven't done, and this has been really great. I haven't done a live this long in like I think 2 years. Thank y'all so much for popping in. Please hit the like button. The more y'all like them, the more I'm going to come back and do more. If y'all like, hey, man, I'm not going to really spend my time. I'm not going to click this little like button. If all I'm asking is a like and y'all won't even like it, then, it's like, they don't want me to do these. So be sure to hit the like button. Feel free to share this with anybody that you think will get value. Put questions in the comment, and then I'll make those kind of when I'm doing the intro. I try to address things that have been mentioned in the comments. So thanks so much for popping in. Everyone have a great Monday evening. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Hit the like button. Good night.